Hello, white people. This is from the mainstream media. Can you believe this? Christian nationalism's mindfuck vaccine doubt threatens America's herd immunity. Christian nationalist ideology. Never heard of it before, but here we go. They're directly going after Christians. First it was they were going after white people. Now they're going after Christians. Christian nationalist ideology will almost certainly serve as a barrier for a sizable minority of Americans who need the vaccine. They are going to make the non-whites not only go after us and hate us because we're white, but because we're Christian and white and we're unredeemable in that sense. Despite the magnitude of the mindfuck pandemic in the U.S., where over 340,000 people have already died, recent news about the effectiveness of vaccines has provided some hope this holiday season. Videos of the first Americans receiving the vaccine were cause for celebration. Public health experts say vital herd immunity will be harder to achieve if a sizable number of Americans resist, there's that word, resist, vaccination. A consistent narrative among many political leaders who delayed an aggressive response to the virus, including President Donald Trump, is the expectation that mindfuck vaccines will speed the return to life as we used to know it. Yet, epidemiologists and public health experts say vital herd immunity will be harder to achieve if a sizable number of Americans resist vaccination. Americans have found all sorts of reasons to be suspicious of vaccines. One community that appears disproportionately opposed is Christian nationalists. In fact, we find in a new study that Americans who strongly embrace Christian nationalism, close to a quarter of the population, how do they know? Quarter of the population are much more likely to question the safety of vaccines and to be misinformed about them. Example, believe that vaccines cause autism or don't work, or that those who administer them are dishonest. If enough of these Americans resist a mindfuck vaccine based on suspicions rooted in misinformation, the results would be disastrous for achieving herd immunity and reducing the spread of the virus. We examined nationally representative data, including 1,219 participants collected by researchers at Chapman University as part of the 2019 wave of the Chapman University Survey of American Fears. Regarding vaccination attitudes, the survey instrument asked respondents to agree or disagree with various statements that we then combined into a single scale. Vaccines cause autism. So this is what they're going to ask you before they throw you in the gulag. Vaccines cause autism. Doctors and drug companies are not honest about the risks of vaccines. People have the right to decide whether or not to vaccinate their kids. Kids are given too many vaccines. Vaccines do not help protect children from dangerous diseases. And then these questions are going to get you immediately executed. To measure Christian nationalism, we combined responses to these 5 questions into a single scale. The federal government should declare the United States a Christian nation. The federal government should advocate Christian values. The federal government should enforce strict separation of church and state. That's not a Christian value. The federal government should allow prayer in public schools. The federal government should allow religious symbols in public spaces. Christian nationalism is an ideology that seeks to have a particular expression of Christianity be privileged in the public sphere. In the national identity, public policies, and sacred symbols of the U.S., it focuses on defining the boundaries of American citizenship, who is and isn't a true American. Most often, a Christian America is one where white, native-born, politically and religiously conservative Christian Americans are at the center of the culture. Yeah, because it's our fucking country. In our recent book, we show that in order to understand various issues animating the culture wars, we must pay close attention to Christian nationalism. Americans who agreed with the various measures of Christian nationalism were much more likely to espouse anti-vaccine attitudes, even after controlling for other influences such as political party, political ideology, religiosity, race, or even education. While concerning this information shouldn't be too surprising, First, Americans who embrace Christian nationalism are more skeptical of science. Oh my God. They're more skeptical of fake science, but I mean, who's counting? They are more likely to believe scientists are hostile to faith and that creationism should be taught in public schools and that our country relies too much on science over religion. Christian nationalists believe that authority in the public sphere should come from sources they trust are friendly to religion, not secular scientists. In 2 other recent studies, we find that Christian nationalism is a leading predictor of ignoring precautionary behaviors regarding the mindfuck. We show that these Americans prize individual liberty or economic prosperity rather than protection of the vulnerable. And while not measuring Christian nationalism directly, other researchers find that religious states disobeyed stay-at-home orders, religious states meaning red states versus blue states, disobeyed stay-at-home orders at a higher rate, and that conservative Protestants are much more skeptical than scientists understand the mindfuck. Finally, Christian nationalism is strongly associated with support for politicians who promise to advance its values and oppose targets of suspicion. Trump and other conservative politicians have embraced anti-vaccination arguments in the past. Medical professionals have even raised the alarm about the effect of Trump's public skepticism, although as president, he has acknowledged the importance of vaccinations. I'm going to skip that. So, just as with other common culture war issues like gun control, same-sex marriage, or policing, Christian nationalism appears closely intertwined with Americans' attitudes towards vaccines and the mindfuck pandemic. One limit of these data is that the researchers at Chapman were unable to ask about the mindfuck vaccine directly, given that they fielded the survey in the fall of 2019. Yeah, not suspicious at all. We feel confident connecting Christian nationalism and Americans' likely responses to the mindfuck vaccine. In our public discourse and ethics surveys this year, we asked Americans, would you get vaccinated if when a mindfuck vaccine becomes available? One of the possible answers was, I don't plan to get vaccinated at all, even after controlling for important socio-demographic, religious, and political characteristics. The more strongly respondents identified with Christian nationalism, the more likely they were to say they don't plan on taking the vaccine. This is a significant concern. Christian nationalist ideology will almost certainly serve as a barrier for a sizable minority of Americans who need the vaccine. Policymakers and healthcare professionals will need to attend to this hurdle as a plan and then execute, there's that word, execute any broad-scale vaccination strategy. This is the end of the article. And if there wasn't a war on Christians, I mean, there's been a war against white people for a very long time, and now they're coming out and they're saying it's Christians. And so the people who claim to be atheist or Buddhist or, some fancy religion, oh, I'm not a Christian, so that's not going to hurt me. It's just, they're just going after white people. And what they're doing here is they're getting white people who don't identify as Christian to hate the white people who don't buy the programming, and they're getting brown people who are intertwined in the programming to hate us even more. So at some point in time, we're going to have to go gray and say that we're atheist or we're not Christian or something like that. I mean, the day is coming. This is actually, in my mind, this is pretty terrifying to read something like this. I know that mainstream media is not real life, but pretty soon, or sometimes it trickles down. It's pretty surprising. You would be surprised that some of these things that are written by these assholes that young people or anybody will read or watch or listen to or whatever, and they just repeat it and they don't even think it through. It's just absolutely disgusting. All right, white people, that's the damage for now. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to your thoughts below.